We moved to Maple Ridge for peace. That's what we told ourselves. After a long, messy year full of layoffs, hospital visits, and one final fight with my parents that ended in silence, we just wanted something quieter, something clean, our own space. Me and Rachel, married 7 years, still in love, but tired. The house was old, sure needed paint, new carpet, maybe a better water heater. But it was ours. And for the first week, it felt like the start of something better. The house next door was empty, or so we thought. Same shape, same porch design, even the same weather-stained siding. We joked it was our ghost house. The windows were always dark. No car, no sound, no movement. It sat there like a picture frozen in time. Rachel was the first to say something felt off. She said she thought she saw lights flicker inside, late at night. Not electric light, more like candlelight. Flickering orange, like fire, but soft. I laughed it off and told her she was just adjusting to the move. New house, new shadows, that kind of thing. But one morning, while taking out the trash, I saw something. A woman standing in the window of the empty house, not moving, just staring. She was pale, dressed in something old-fashioned. Her posture was completely still, unnatural. I waved. She didn't wave back, just stood there. When I looked again, she was gone. I asked Rachel if she had seen anything, but I could tell by the look in her eyes that she was holding something back. Over the next few days, more odd things started to happen. We received mail addressed to names we didn't recognize, but the handwriting looked eerily like ours. Inside the envelopes were strange items. A photo of our living room, a note that simply said, "Keep watching," and once. A copy of a wedding photo that wasn't ours, but had our faces in it. Then the dreams started. Rachel said she dreamed of watching herself sleep. I had recurring nightmares of standing in our front yard, looking at the house next door, while someone who looked exactly like me stood in the opposite window, watching back. It was like our lives had been copied, almost perfectly, and something in that other house was learning how to be us. One night, I woke to the sound of a door creaking open. I sat up and listened. It wasn't from inside our house. It was from next door. Through the window, I saw movement. 2 figures walking into the house across the lawn. They looked like us. Same height, same walk. The woman even had Rachel's soft limp from an old ankle injury. They entered through the front door and vanished into the dark. The next morning, our front door was unlocked. We always double-checked the lock. Inside, everything looked normal, except one of our family photos had changed. The background now showed the house next door with lights on and someone watching from the upstairs window. I tried to get answers. I went to the city's property office and asked who owned the house next door. The clerk typed for a minute, then frowned. According to this, the house belongs to Rachel and Daniel Carter, K. That's us. I laughed, thinking it was some error, until she turned the monitor toward me and showed the file photo. It was us, but ... not older, tired. Their expressions were blank, like they were being puppeted. Rachel cried on the way home. We stopped speaking for most of the day. That night, every light in the house next door turned on. Every single room, flickering orange light, like firelight, like it was calling to us. At 2:17 a.m., the doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole. No one there. But the house across the lawn was open. Inside, we saw a dinner table set for two, and there we were, sitting in silence, eating. No movement, no sound, just a perfect imitation of our dinner routine, but wrong. Slightly too stiff, slightly too slow. The next day, footprints appeared on our carpet, damp, bare, leading from the front door to the bedroom and back. Our security camera had gone offline around 2 a.m. We agreed to leave. It didn't matter what we'd lose. Rachel started packing. I went to the garage to grab boxes. When I came back in, she was gone. Her shoes were at the back door. The door was ajar. I sprinted across the lawn. I entered the hollow house for the first time. It was full now, decorated, familiar. It looked exactly like our home, but older. The walls stained, the furniture warped. A mirror version of everything we owned. In the living room sat two people. They looked like us, but only he turned to look at me. He smiled, just barely. "She's home now," he said. I couldn't move, couldn't speak. Then I blinked, and the house was empty again. Dust, silence, no furniture, no figures. Just the cold air and the sound of something scuttling upstairs. I ran. I called the police. They searched both properties. Our wedding photos, her clothes, her toothbrush, all gone. Like she'd never been here. Now I live alone. The neighbors don't ask questions. The house next door is quiet again. But sometimes I see her in the upstairs window, smiling faintly. She looks happy, and she never stops watching me. She watches every night, and I think one day she wants me to join her. After my wife died, I didn't think I'd ever feel steady again. Her name was Leela. Cancer took her fast, too fast. Our son Micah was only 6. I remember holding his hand during the funeral while trying not to fall apart in front of him. That week, I made a promise to give him something better, a new home. A new start. So I packed up everything and moved us to a small town a few hours away. Quiet streets, fresh air. People who didn't know our story. I found a modest house at the end of a cul-de-sac, just big enough for the two of us. It had a yard, a real yard. Micah could ride his bike without me watching from the porch in fear. For a while, things felt okay. We grilled hot dogs. He made friends. We had movie nights again. Then the neighbor moved in. He took the house next to ours. It had been empty since we got there. He arrived one morning in a rusty truck and unloaded everything himself. Old furniture, dark wooden chairs, boxes he never opened. His name was Thomas. Middle-aged, quiet, pale, too quiet. I introduced myself. He smiled, thinly, nodded, barely spoke. I didn't think much of it at first. Some people just want to be left alone. But it didn't take long for Micah to start acting strange. He stopped wanting to play in the yard. Said he didn't like how the man next door looked at him. When I asked what he meant, he just said he watches too much. I started paying attention, and I noticed it too. Every time we were outside, Thomas was outside too, sitting on his porch, standing by his fence, always facing our direction, never smiling, never blinking, just staring. One afternoon, Micah was playing with his toys near the fence when he screamed. I ran out and found him shaking. He said Thomas had whispered his name through the slats, repeated it over and over. I confronted him, walked right over and asked what the hell he was doing. He didn't deny it, just stared at me, then said, "Your son looks just like her." That stopped me cold. He couldn't have known about Lila. I went inside, locked every door, and called the police. They said there was nothing they could do. No crime had been committed. The next day, our mailbox was full of photographs. They were all of Micah playing in the yard, sitting at the kitchen table, sleeping. Some were taken from inside our house. I lost it. I grabbed a bat and marched over. But the house was empty. No furniture, no dishes, no clothes. Just bare walls and dust. The police searched, but found nothing. No sign of Thomas. No fingerprints. No vehicle. They told me the house had been vacant for months. But I saw him. I saw him every night for a week after that, through the fence, standing in the yard, still as a post. I started sleeping in Micah's room, keeping the bat by the door. Then one night, I woke up to the sound of the back door creaking open. I ran out with the bat, but there was no one there. Just a new photograph taped to the fridge. Micah, sleeping, a hand reaching toward him from the darkness. I moved us out that same morning. We're somewhere new now. Safer, I think. But Micah still won't go near the windows. And sometimes I find new photos tucked under the door, always of him. always from the angle of someone who's still watching. I buried the last one in the backyard. And every morning since, I find the dirt freshly disturbed. When I moved into that quiet cul-de-sac on Willow Creek Drive, I was trying to leave my old life behind. My name is Aaron, and I had just finalized my divorce after 10 years of marriage. It was messy, too messy. I needed peace, space, something different, something that felt like mine. The little house at number 14 was modest but charming, white fence. A small porch, even a lilac bush, blooming beside the front steps. I told myself this would be a clean slate. For the first week, everything seemed fine. I unpacked slowly, painted the living room, let the silence settle into my bones like a warm bath. The neighbors waved politely, but no one asked questions, which suited me. Except for the house directly across the street. Number 17, a large, two-story home, windows always shut, curtains always drawn. But what stood out was the lights. They were always on. Every window glowed with soft yellow light, day or night. I assumed at first someone lived there, someone reclusive, maybe a shift worker. But even then, not once did I see anyone. No one entering, no one leaving, no car in the driveway, just light. I tried not to obsess. I had other things to worry about. But some nights, as I sat on my porch with a glass of wine, I'd look over, and there it was again. Every window lit, every curtain drawn tight. One night, I caught movement. A figure behind the second floor window. A silhouette, tall, narrow, unmoving. I stared for a long time, waiting for it to shift. Eventually, I went inside and told myself it was a shadow, just my imagination. But the next night, it was there again. This time, closer to the window, almost pressed against it. I took a picture with my phone. But when I looked at the photo, the window was just light. No figure, no shadow. I stopped sitting outside at night. A few days later, I saw a woman walking her dog and asked casually about the house at 17. She stopped, her face tightening. Nobody's lived there since the Hendersons. That was years ago. I asked, what happened? They left, suddenly. Middle of the night, from what I heard, didn't even take most of their things. I nodded and didn't ask more. That night, I left my bedroom window open, just a bit. I don't know why. Maybe part of me wanted to test something. Maybe I wanted to prove to myself it was all in my head. Around 2:30 a.m., I woke up. Not to a sound, but to a feeling, like being watched. I sat up and turned toward the window. The lights across the street were still on, but this time, the silhouette was gone, and instead, the front door was open. I stood, heart pounding, and moved to the window. My porch light flicked on with emotion. That's when I saw it. Someone was standing at the edge of my driveway. Not walking, not waving, just standing. They didn't move when I turned on more lights. They didn't flinch. I called out, "Hello?" But there was no response. When I looked down to grab my phone, they were gone. The next morning, I found footprints in the dew on my lawn. Bare footprints. I told myself it was a prank. Maybe local teens. Maybe someone testing me. I bought motion sensors, a better lock, even a camera. But that night, the lights were still on. And at 3 a.m., the motion light triggered again. I didn't look. The next day, my phone camera roll had a new photo. It showed me sleeping, taken from outside the window. I went to the police. They took the report, but found no signs of forced entry, no fingerprints, nothing. I tried to leave town for the weekend. Stayed at a hotel a few hours away. I slept better for one night. But the second morning, there was a note slipped under my door. "Why did you leave?" No signature. Just that sentence. I returned home in a fog of dread. When I pulled into my driveway, I looked across the street. The lights were off. That should have been a relief. But it felt worse, like whatever lived in that house had moved. That night, I stayed awake. I sat by the window until sunrise. Nothing happened. No motion light. No silhouette. But when I checked the front porch the next morning, there was a package. No return address, just my name. Inside was a single item, a photo frame. The picture inside showed me standing at my own window, staring out. Only behind me, in the reflection, was someone else, tall, narrow, pressed against the glass. I don't know how much longer I can stay here. The police are useless. My friends think I'm unraveling. But every night, the lights come back on. Every night, the curtains twitch. And sometimes, I swear, I hear my name whispered through the walls. Soft, patient, as if someone is waiting for me to come outside.